Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of On the Couch. Now today is a little extra special because it's with me, but I also have a guest with me. So today I have with me Karen Humphries. So Karen and I have actually known each other for quite some time, haven't we, Karen? I don't quite know how many years, but it's got to be probably, I don't know, probably 7 years, maybe.
I was just thinking
around
it's
that.
6 or 7. It's on the other side of 5, but not quite 10.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for quite some time, and we've both worked in each other's spaces professionally as well as, as clients with each other. And we've kind of developed a bit of a friendship, I suppose, along the way in amongst this all as well. So
Absolutely.
particularly when it comes down to a lot of business stuff as well, isn't it? So we've sort of established that. But what I've got Karen on with me today about is, so Karen has, the last 18 months have been quite, and I'm going to use the experience word, so we'll touch on that soon. So I would normally insert the word journey, okay? And Karen is quick to point out it is not a journey. This is an experience that she's going to be talking about with and sharing with us today. And I love her reframe on, that word, just shifting out that word. So yeah, quite the experience, hasn't it, Karen, the last 18 months?
Okay. Absolutely. What I've learnt probably in the last year or so is your lifetime is the journey, and on the journey you have a myriad of experiences that make you feel good. Some experiences, whilst they don't make you feel good, you learn a lot about yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's all a gift. Every experience is a gift. You get something out of it if you choose to look at it that way.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll jump into that in a minute. But what do you do? So what's your business? What's your work in the world? What are you here to do?
Well, it's funny, we were just talking about that.
Okay.
So my name's Karen. I'm a change facilitator, and I went under, my business name was Blooming From Within, and we were literally just having a conversation about, I feel like I'm letting go, or my catch cry is, you can choose to change and bloom from within, but really I'm becoming the embodiment of the changed chick. It's allowing whatever life throws at you in terms of experiences, good or bad, to be able to roll with those and learn as much about yourself as possible, and then in turn empowering others. So I'm a trained kinesiologist, wellbeing inspiration coach. I'm a blogger, about to become published author. You lose track of all of the different things you do.
I'm the same. You have all these little tags, and I guess the thing is you're just here to help people feel good and better about themselves, isn't it? Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here
Absolutely.
to help people experience our humanness in a way that actually gets to feel good, because it does, regardless of what life throws at you. And I think, that for me is what has inspired me with your experience, is that you've managed to do that. Like, has it been tough? Hell yeah. Has it been, traumatic? Absolutely. All of those things. However, you've still bring it, each time.
And I think that's leading into, because I'm not quite back at work yet, I think it's got me thinking, our conversation from the other day over coffee has got me thinking, yes, I am a change facilitator. I understand what it's like to feel fetal on the floor and feel absolutely revolting from an experience, an encounter, an event. But I also know the power of reframe and all of the tools that I've ever studied to be able to get myself moving forward. And it's all about embracing change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this experience that we kind of dancing around at the moment? So what have you experienced in this last 18 months?
Wow. The funny version I sometimes say to people is, I've gone from Titanic boobs to little motorboat boobies, or foobs, as they're sometimes called. I was diagnosed initially with ductal carcinoma in my right breast, and that in itself, just diagnosis, was traumatic after being caught in a biopsy driver machine for 70 odd minutes. That wasn't what one would call fun, and I ended up with PTSD from that. A week later, I was having the first of several surgeries, and the pathology from surgery showed I actually had grade 3 invasive breast cancer. So where I thought initially that the experience I could get away with just having surgery. It ended up I needed oncology treatment for 12 months. So I had a round of light chemo.
Yep.
Whoever came up with that word really needs a bit of a junk punch, because there's nothing light about having chemotherapy.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
some receptor treatment. I tried hormone blocking. I tried everything, as well as all of the natural therapy stuff. So I
Yes.
had acupuncture, I had massage, I had naturopathy.
Yeah. And
I
again,
had cancer.
that's it. And it's funny, isn't it? So again, when we use the word light too, so the decision, I know also, because we discussed this, for you to actually undergo that was not light either, is it? You know?
No, it's not funny, but it is. I originally was diagnosed through a meditation and an encounter with spirit giving me a warning or a heads up.
Yeah.
Go and get this checked, something's not right. So, and I'd always been a little bit about mammogram and just didn't want to do it. And all of a sudden, age 47, I thought, right, I need to go and get a mammogram. I was on holiday at the time when I had this intuitive message. Booked in for a routine mammogram, got the call back, all hell broke loose after that. And it really was quite confronting, because I've always been quite anti-chemo and anti-Western medicine after a quite a negative experience about 15 years ago. And what I learned very quickly, and the continuing dialogue with spirit, was it's okay, just we'll guide you. And so I had the option of just a lumpectomy and radiation. But after being caught in a machine and having to go into another machine to do a lumpectomy, and given the size of the disease that was there, that really wasn't an option, because I would have had to have reconstruction anyway. And as it turned out, they wouldn't have got it all. So intuitively, I was guided to choose a mastectomy and a reconstruction, which is not for the faint-hearted when you're using your own material. And there was plenty of voluntary material to be transferred from one spot to another. And I still recall having my surgeon in stitches about that.
I love also the way that you've brought humor to this, you know, like this is the thing too.
Yeah.
Like you've continually have done that. And again, even, you know, I noticed at different times, you know, you would go into to have your chemo and you would be wearing dress
The
ups,
crazy hat.
you know, and I just like, I love that, you know, it's because that's it, isn't it? It's like, it's, you know, trying to make the best of a really awful, horrible, traumatic situation, isn't it? You know?
Do you know how the hats came about? I had some hypnotherapy with a girlfriend whose dad was going through cancer at the same time. And she was just like me. She was alternative. And she said, you know what, Kaz, the chemotherapy is your magic medicine. And if that's what clears your entire body of any rogue cells, because at the time I was given some statistical information that showed my risk of a metastatic recurrence within 2 years was higher than what I liked.
Yep.
The numbers didn't look great. And whilst I had lymphatic clearance, I really had to do more than just surgery to make sure that my daughter had a mum at her wedding.
Yeah.
And that I got to hold a grandchild. And so there was all of these things that came up in conversation with the medical team, who were just fabulous. And don't you worry, because I'm an industrial chemist by trade, we chatted biochemistry for hours on end, and we spoke research. And so I put my detective hat on, because I've done that as well in my past. And what I found was that all of the alternative things that I do could actually complement Western. So when I went to chemo, I made chemo my bitch. I put post-it notes of affirmations. This is my magic medicine, ridding my body of anything that's no longer of my higher use. I put on a hat, because for me, laughter is therapy. And if I can laugh and get an endorphin release, I feel good. It puts me in a positive mindset. My magic medicine just works. I didn't have nausea. I did cap cooling, so I kept a lot of my hair. You lose hair everywhere else. I had the bonus of losing my fingerprints, so I became very good friends with straws and glasses with cups, because it just looked pathetic.
Yeah.
And you have all of the other side effects that go with it. But for the most part, other than the pain from chemo, I coped quite well.
Yeah. And I mean, again, so you obviously approach this situation again, because you've got a toolbox, haven't you? You know, I think this is, we were talking about this the other day, is that, so you've gone in with, and isn't it funny, like even when you're talking about like with the chemo experience, isn't it? I can't help but feel that sometimes, again, it's what the belief is underpinning that too, isn't it? So you bring to the table is that this thing is a choice. It feels good. It feels like it's the right choice for me. That's what I'm being guided to do. And therefore, I believe that, you know, it's going to be the thing that's also going to help me in addition to everything else. So we could make that a bad thing, or we can make it a really great thing, isn't it? And that's a really vital part, I think. And again, you know, what I've seen in you is that you're keeping that positivity in the mindset. Yes, you know, despite everything that's going on, and yes, of course, you're going to have your terrible days and things like that, but you've always come back to that place, haven't you? Like where you've gone.
In a way, the process makes you very humble. It keeps you very in that space of vulnerability, and just, I found myself just constantly surrendering to, this is what's going on. I feel like crap because the medicine's working, and just, I made a choice right from get-go. Right, this is what I'm going to do. My team were absolutely behind me. My tribe of friends were all on the same page. They knew the decisions that I'd made. They knew I would have researched and made, you know, good science calls, but balanced the emotion, because we're not, you and I both know, we're not just physical, mental, emotional beings. We're meshed together in a whole bunch of stuff. And then we have the energy of intention. And that intention is what sets the foundation for how well the treatment works, how well you recover from surgeries. And I ended up having 5, and I've got a 6th surgery coming up. It builds on your, you know, intention sets the energy for how resilient you'll be going through that experience.
Absolutely.
And it's really quite interesting.
And it's interesting. So you talk about, like, you know, your friends and your tribe, but I know we talked earlier on, is that not everybody was, you know, there was a lot of judgment. And you had, even to the point where some people had the audacity to even contact you and share their beliefs about what you were doing and how you were dealing with your experiences and what you should be doing with your experience, which for me actually left me entirely gobsmacked. That really, you know, as I said, gobsmacked that people would go to that extent.
It still brings me to tears. There was one in particular who sent me a text the week I'd had my mastectomy. So I've got 145 centimetres of suture line. I've got 5 drains in. I've got a catheter. I've got a drip, you know, 3 drips going. And here's this person sending me a text. I can't believe, and these were her words, I can't believe you've butchered your body, and now you're going to fill it with poison when there's so many other documented alternatives out. And I just saw red, and the fire within me, and I just channeled all of that rage about being diagnosed and all of the crap that I'd been dealing with. And then there's more, because I had people ringing me up, oh, I've heard you've busted up with your husband and that's why you're cancelling clients. Breast cancer, and I'm about to have surgery. So I actually, right from the get-go, had to get on the front foot because of the local gossip mill running rife. It was just as like, and Spirit just kept saying to me, share the story. We've got to disembark all of the fear associated with cancer, and people saying, oh, you're going to lose your hair and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And frankly, and here's a profanity warning, fuck that. It's my experience. It's my body. It's my choice. It's my pathology that says, okay, we've got all the cancer out from the surgery, but your risk of metastatic return is this. So I have to make some really hard choices that have made me go back to my values and belief system of, I'm a science girl at heart with a bit of woo on the side. And that's what drives me. If I can understand something and process it and debate the logic, and trust me, I debated with my oncology team like there was no tomorrow. There were days they're like, oh, we're going to have a discussion about this, aren't we?
And I don't doubt it for a moment. Don't doubt it.
and they would laugh and go, it's really nice to be challenged about this. And so I was constantly liaising with the oncology pharmacist. Look, my naturopath is suggesting this because of my liver function and this, that, and the other. And I know my body better than you ever will. So if you want to, I really would like to do this, but if you're not going to approve it because it will contraindicate the treatment, help me find something else because I need to be able to manage X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't
And
spent the
this
last
is,
2 years getting my gut health right for you to just mess it up.
yeah, absolutely. And this is the what I love though with it, because like I can see so much you going into really big areas with this. And we talked about this a little over the weekend in terms of you've got some really cool stuff coming up. And I know you don't need to share obviously all of that, but you're going to be, I believe, quite the ambassador for, or the change chick. This is where that part of it comes into, in terms of challenging the status quo within, some of this treatment type things, isn't it? It's like, and the way that things have just always been done, because you are going in there and you've been asked for feedback in different areas, as a reliable source and things like that. So,
exactly. I think I've been given a lot of feedback I like to praise when I get a really good service. So I gave my physio and rehab team and the oncology team at St Vincent's Private a really big shout out. And I ended up liaising with their director of operations, and I've been suggesting when someone's first diagnosed, that's traumatic.
Yeah.
I'll set aside my biopsy experience because that was really unfortunate, and I'm doing something about that to try and change procedures and the way they approach dealing with trauma clients. So that's another story. And I guess this is what's prompted me to write my first book is how does one manage their trauma response, and what are the stages, and what are all of the tools that anyone on the street can employ, which they're really basic. But when you're in the thick of having a shock or a fright or bad news like this, you're not capable of reading the 3 inches of literature that they give you. They need onboarding videos. So at the end of April, I'm having a film shoot with my medical team to talk about what are all the roles that the people do, what can you expect, so that it demystifies these people are all absolutely amazing. The service at St Vincent's was seamless. They all work as a team. And when you actually understand the different roles and who to go to, what to ask them, it empowers you. And when you've got that power, that you switch from negative to positive. And I'm also working with and creating suggestions for their rehab really should start at the time of diagnosis, so that you can put yourself in that best mindset space as you start treatment, for example, because some people do treatment and then they do surgery. When I was originally diagnosed, I did surgery first thinking that was all it was going to be, and then we found more. So that everyone's experience of cancer is very unique, and they often modify. Whilst there's protocols for treating a different type or grade of cancer, they still can tailor it very much to you and what you can have. I might have allergies to those meds, and so they'll do something different, or they'll half dose or whatever, so that it's still tailored to some respect to what you need if you are able to speak up.
Yes.
And that's really important, is finding your voice in the midst of all of that chaos. And I find too that if you can be empowering a patient or a person who's perhaps been diagnosed, they then have the power to say to their friends, I can't keep retelling this story of what stage I'm up to. And so as well, I had a private messenger group. There was about 60 people in it, and they represented all facets of my life. So I could share some information, and then everyone could disseminate that out into the world of those who knew me or were supporting my family while I was going through this.
That's right.
And I think being able to speak up and find that voice at your most vulnerable time, it's a bit like saying to the universe, all the love I've invested in people, can you give it back to me right now, because that'll perk me up. That's exactly what I need. And that's how I felt. That first week I was diagnosed, I would have had, and I counted them, there was over 480 texts and messages. Oh my God, get well soon, thinking of you, sending you love. And people will never understand how much that lifted me and just helped me draw all of my energy in and just focus on self. And we were talking about this the other day, that the busy working woman who's juggling all of the balls in the air, the first thing she'll put down is the ball called self.
That's it. Absolutely. Every time, isn't it? We do it every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
with this perception, I have to be a good mother and I have to have food on the table. And I was talking to someone just earlier this morning, and she said, I'm a bad mum because I feed my kids pies and nuggets. I'm like, are they fed?
Mm.
Are you doing the best that you can in that moment? Cut yourself some fucking slack.
Yeah, this is it.
Seriously.
Yeah, because we're our own worst enemies when it gets into that sort of environment. Yeah.
Yes, and so then when you get thrown something like cancer, you actually have to, and it's very loud. People, the messages I got, drink this water. You've brought this on yourself with your thoughts. It's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion about it.
Yeah.
I had people who would cross the street to not talk to me because I had cancer cooties.
Yeah.
Or people who didn't know what to say to me anymore. It's like, and I had this aha moment of, this is why cancer is an experience, not your journey.
Yep.
You are not cancer. You have cells in your body that are cancerous, but I'm still me. I'm still this gregarious, crazy change chick.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
that.
And
Cancer does not define me.
No, and the thing is like, so what I'm seeing too with you is absolutely it doesn't define you. And if anything, it's actually catapulting you into a whole nother version and level and layer and awareness and awakening of who you are, even deeper, isn't it? So this is the thing. I think we can think we know ourselves, and then when we're forced to really start to know ourselves and really go within, because that's the only option, isn't it, to drown out everything in the background and come within. That's when we start to go, and then when we step into our power ultimately too, isn't it?
Yes,
which is that's
really
something I see
permission.
hugely.
It's given me permission to embrace who I really am without a filter.
Yes. Yeah, because this is the thing, and again, and because when we come back to even just that example we were just using there in terms of, hey, I'm feeding my kids pies and chicken nuggets. The thing is, we're feeling bad about ourselves, but we're filtering that because we think we're comparing, aren't we? It's the comparison item that grips everybody. And I guess, we're all going to have it at some point in time. But it's like coming back to, you've just got to do you. You really do have to shut out the noise, and in whatever thing that's going on in life, you really have to come back to go, does it feel good for me? And is this my truth? And
I was literally just about to say that. Having 12 months of oncology during COVID meant, and that was a gift in itself, because that gave me permission then to step right out of my business space and just focus on, what do I need today? You've known me long enough now. I'm one of those crazy chicks. You bounce out of bed, you go.
You're dynamic is the word I use to describe you. You're dynamic, and I don't know quite how you do it because I'm almost the total opposite.
Well, it's almost manic. I used to work manically in like an 80, 100-hour week and get it all done. And now I take pleasure in outsourcing. I don't have to do it all at the moment or in the future. And so now I'm migrating towards the thoughts of returning to work. And it's interesting, I did a live stream the other day. I'm all clear and I had 50 messages. When are you opening up clinic? It's like, guys, I've done 12 months of oncology. This is a slow healing process. So I've got another surgery coming. This isn't something I can rush. I had PTSD, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and this is kind of like, this is like your reset, isn't it? Like, this is the reset to go, you're not going to go back to everything that you did like that. You're not going to go back to the crazy hours, because that's been part of the experience, and then the lessons that you've actually grabbed along the way, hasn't it? That's been a gift in all of
this. And so now I'm finding myself in a space of, I'm reviewing everything. Speaking of resetting, I don't know that I'll be offering 1-hour appointments anymore. It might be a boutique 75-minute, and we honestly address one thing at a time. Don't come with your shopping list and expect we're going to do it all. I'm not going to be that practitioner anymore. We're going to get down and dirty and work out, right, this is a pattern you've been running. Are you really ready to do something with it? And whilst I can't stand on my feet still because of neuropathy, I'm looking at doing group work where I can actually move the entire time or sit and do the work from there. And that's where I'll be sharing the tools that, and one of the things I found before this complete experience was people would come to see you but not do their homework. They wouldn't do the work, and they come, "Oh, just fix me." It's like, you know what? That's not my job. My job's to facilitate a space for you to find within yourself of that's where I actually want to resonate. I need to help me let go of all of this stuff so I can embrace this new space and move forward from there. And so the idea of the group work or the sacred circle work that will be launched probably in the second school term will be all of the tools, the simple tools that you can use to migrate through life. And it's not spending hours on end. This can be done in 3 minutes, but let's do it as a group so you can harness the energy of people around you. We have some time to share. We'll do some journaling work. We do some meditation. I've nearly finished my meditation teacher training. So we get to incorporate all of the tools, feel good about ourselves, but actually it sets you up to connect into that heart space. Get out of your head, connect into the heart, so that you get that conscious awareness. And I know I've worked with you before. You did exactly the same thing. It's what does the heart tell you? What's the information that's arising for you to own, release today? What can you lay down and surrender to?
Yep.
How do I embrace more joy in my life?
That's it. And we were talking, and I love the way, again, you've talked about like not doing the homework, so to speak. And that's, you know, for me, like, is we can have awareness, but it's just awareness.
What are you doing with it?
Don't do anything with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I've been incredibly guilty of that myself at different times, well and truly. So it is something that we all kind of get into that loop of, and then you still wonder why, well, hey, I'm doing all the work, but nothing's changing for me. Well, actually, are you actually actioning your awareness? Because that's probably the missing piece of the puzzle, you know.
And let's reframe the guilt to, I now have an awareness I'm repeating a pattern.
Yeah.
And I don't need to guilt, shame, blame myself. I just need to thank you, universe. Thank you, angels, for showing me that awareness that I can now see consciously.
Yep.
Cancel the guilt, and we move forward to, in this moment, I'm okay. I'm doing my best. What can I do alternatively? When I feel this happening, I can do this.
Yep.
And it's just cut ourselves some fucking slack, you know.
That's it, isn't it? And it is, isn't it? Because I think we have, again, I've been having a couple of conversations lately in terms of, even when you do work on yourself, it doesn't exempt you from life getting the better of you. You know, this is never, you know, our human experience never goes away. You know, truth, you know, but hey, it just doesn't go away. You know, there always is going to be challenges. There's always going to be things, but it's just dependent on the way, again, we reframe it and look at it and choose to go through it, move through it.
Yep. Just an experience.
It is. That's
how
it.
You judge it in terms of your values and beliefs will determine if it's good or bad.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I freak people out when I say, geez, my breast cancer's been a gift.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you fucking on drugs? I'm like, yep.
Yeah, this is it, but isn't it? But and again, that brings it, you know, this is the thing, it's a good point though too, is because if we can find the gifts in the most uncomfortable circumstances, that actually helps us move and navigate through it a lot easily and better.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's not going to be challenging. Does it mean it's not going to feel not good at times? No. But it does help us move through it a lot easier and with far less.
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. I've had days where I've just cried for a week and I've been fetal on the floor processing stuff, and that's okay, because in that moment, I'm doing the best that I can.
In that moment, that was the best thing, isn't it? This is the thing.
That was the best thing.
Moment, you know, that is the best thing to do. This is what, again, we get so hung up about the fact that we can't feel bad, I think is half the problem. And the thing is sometimes the best thing you can actually do is to be a negative Nancy, is to feel bad about the whole situation, is to have a really ranty cry or whatever it is. That's the best thing, you know, that we want to do in that moment.
And because if you don't do it, if you continue to stuff your shit under the carpet, it bites you on the ass at the time when you really don't need to bite it, you know.
Yeah.
I would beat myself up for watching endless Netflix, and it's like, well, someone said to me, but Karen, your neuropathy, so like at that stage I couldn't walk. I was crawling on the floor. I really needed a frame or something because I could not walk. I was in so much pain. And I don't cope well with pain meds. So when I took them, I really could only take them at night. And they gave me a bit of a reality check and said, you know what, are you not doing the best of what you can? And if you know, of all of the years you've worked your ass off, think of this as your long service leave. I said, well, this isn't the long service leave I thought I would have. I've been putting it out there. I wanted a break. And that's, you know, if nothing else, you get out of this conversation is be very clear with your intent. Sweet Jesus, Mary and Joseph, be very clear.
Yeah,
Very
this is
clear.
the thing. It doesn't always, I always say, we've got human, version of expectation, and we've got universe expectation, and they often are very, very different,
They are
Yeah.
very different. And so you think you want this, and this is where expectations bite you on the bottom, because it's like, well, I got the time off. I've still got the time off, and it's beautiful because now what I'm retraining and resetting myself to do is work on my terms.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And what my body can actually do, not what I want, because what I want is Anthony Robbins style, Tony Robbins style, but that's not sustainable. What I've realized is, and we were literally just talking about this before, is what do I authentically need and want to do? And that's to help others migrate to live their best life and become joy seekers. Well, there's ways that I can do that without standing, and that's what I'm exploring now, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Doing the best that I can.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, and it's meeting yourself where you're at, isn't it? Because I think the thing is too is nothing is forever either. We get to chop and change and choose differently at any point in time, and sometimes again it is just this, like you said, it's this experience in time. It's a moment in time. So yeah.
And you know what? It's people say, it is a moment in time. Every day is different. Every moment is different. Your biochemistry, just physically, just taking a deeper breath or a glass of water, you're different. You've changed. You've shifted. Energetically, you've shifted. And so when you bring it down to that basic fundamental core level of this is who we are, we change every day.
Absolutely. Every day, every moment, every minute.
Do you alter your mindset and your intention to align and flow with what the day brings you? Massive.
It is massive. Very.
Oh, we could talk about for hours about that.
I think we've got another couple of different conversations that we could talk about here, Kat.
Bring it on. I love it. I love spending time with you.
That's it. So, okay, just to finish up your book, okay? Tell us about your book. When are you expecting to launch it? And I know that you haven't got just one book, have you? We've got multiple.
I'm working with the amazing coach Kathy Walters at the moment, and my first book is called This Is My Raw, and it aims to explain how you can feel raw, as in chopped liver, RAW, to working through your stuff using some tools and find your truth, your authenticness, what motivates you to do life. And so from raw to raw. The second book, and so that book is, the first book's about trauma response and how to navigate that, because at the end of the day, on some level, we've all experienced something that's been traumatic for us.
Absolutely.
Now, you don't necessarily need to do breast cancer to have done a trauma. You might have had a teacher who was a bully, or a boss who yelled, or a boyfriend who dropped, on some level, we've all experienced trauma, and a lot of us don't realise that when it's significant, we can often get stuck in that survival response and can't navigate our way out. And so then we're re-triggered and we reinforce the pattern, and it just goes on and on and on. So the book is really explaining the science behind that and how you can migrate out without having to do years and years of therapy or working alongside a therapist, and this can be your homework manual. The second book, I think, will be about my motorboat boobies and the experience of going from Titanics down to itty bitty titties. And I could probably do stand-up comedy about that. I have so many jokes.
Definitely.
And you've been part of that group, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of it won't be printable because it's so naughty, but that's okay. And I think the third book is really, how does the partner and the tribe then process how they respond to someone they love dearly going through a trauma? And how do they deal with that sense of hopelessness, and how do they love on that person and deal with their own stuff that arises at the same time?
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, I think there's some, like gold nuggets in all of those, well and truly. And as I said, I've expressed this the other day, but I think it's so needed, isn't it, in this sort of.
And at the end of the day, it's just being what I'm finding, and when I talk, even beside, sitting in the oncology chair on the ward and having conversations with staff and friends and family and other patients, there's some people that I coached on the ward. There was one lady in particular, I remember she came in and she was just beside herself. She was hysterical before she started. And I was literally down one end of the ward and she was up the other, and I could hear her wailing right from get-go. She had massive anxiety, massive panic, and they couldn't settle her. And I remember going to the toilet and I just gave her a bit of a wink. I said, the first session's always the worst. And she goes, oh, will you sit with me? And so I sat with her and we just did a breathing meditation and she just, she goes, oh, thank you. And I went, you know what? Someone did this for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm just paying it forward.
Yeah.
Breathing's it's not overrated. It's kind of important. So let's just breathe together.
Yeah.
And then I started telling her jokes, and the lady next to us started telling us jokes. And before we knew it, my drip was finished and it was time for me to go. And she still reaches out and this happened and that happened. I go, well, Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? Is that mindset the right for you?
Yeah.
And we all have that. You don't wait for an oncology chair to work through your triggers.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? And I also love how you were talking about, like, with trauma. I think that's the thing, is because, again, I think there's a bit of a misperception there that you have to have had, like,
you have to be a war veteran, or
yeah,
you have to
like that you have to have had something, like, again, and like, so to me, there's, like, I often say, there's capital T trauma, and then we've got physical trauma, emotional trauma, social, we've got trauma in all of our different facets and area, and it can be something that we actually consider insignificant, and yet it's so not, and this is the thing.
I look at, and that's so true, Erin. I look at my daughter who's in year 9 now, and the BS that goes on with social media and 13, 14-year-old girls, oh my God, and every parent of a 13-year-old girl will completely agree. Ditch the phone, because the comparisonitis that goes on and the bitching and the bullshit of this expectation, I have to look, think, be a certain way, like a certain boy or girl, and then, God forbid, if you're transgender, gay or something else, it's like, how do these kids grow up? There's so much pressure just from social media.
Yeah.
So there's trauma absolutely everywhere.
That's it. Yeah, isn't it? It's just, it's in every, and that's, I think, I've had a couple of conversations with some of my clients, is because even their definition of what was trauma and what mine is, completely different. It's, as I said, I believe trauma can happen in all areas of our life.
And, agreed.
And again, that also is down to perception too, and to the experience of the person, so it's very individual.
I completely agree. I was literally just about to say, don't go comparing your experience to someone else's, because no one has my genetics, no one's had my upbringing, no one's had my work experience, no one is me. So you can't begin to compare your life and your challenges to mine, because you will never get the same response.
No, not at all.
And this is what comes back to, when you embrace an experience, what you're doing is you're shutting out the external world and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and just focusing on, where am I at right now? What's going on in my world? Is it good or bad? Do I need to adjust anything in this moment to feel safe, to feel good about myself, to move on?
Yep.
It's not rocket science.
No. I think that's the thing, isn't it? So I always look and go, our human experience, and as humans, we're complex, but we overcomplicate it, by the overthinking and the, and the moment we come back to that, exactly though, using some of those sort of prompts that you've just then said, it actually simplifies things right there in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. I constantly find myself saying to people, oh, how are you today? Oh, well, it's nothing compared to you. It's like, well, who are you to compare yourself to me? I was no better or worse than you before I had this experience, and I'm still no better, or I'm no different to who I was before.
That's it.
So don't put me on the cancer pedestal and go, poor Karen, fuck that.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it?
You might have to edit that. This is going to be a bit sweet. You might have to have a profanity clause on the start of this one. But that's so true. It's when you come together, I've got this beautiful tribe of women, and I don't generally like being the centre of attention. And I love this particular group because we literally go around the table and everyone talks about what they've got going on for them right now. And we all take it in turns.
Yeah. And how powerful
Everyone
to be
then
witnessed.
to hold space, that we all hold space for each other.
Yeah.
We all observe and listen. And, you know, when it's requested, we offer advice. But just to hold space with a friendship circle and just go, I hear you. I see that's affecting you. Wow.
Yeah.
How are you going with that?
Yeah. And it is, and that's such a powerful tool in itself, because it's without judgment. It is literally just that, isn't it? It's holding space,
Yep.
listening, it's seeing the person, witnessing
Yep.
the without it. Yeah. And that is,
Yep.
and the thing is because that we don't actually get that often offered to us.
No, and this is my intention creating sacred circles is the fact that sometimes it can be a little intimidating going to your doctor or a therapist and going, poor me, woe is me, this is my story right now, wah, 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 rather than, well, this is what I'm challenged with right now, and these are the feelings that are coming up for me, and I don't know what to do with them.
Yes.
That in itself is traumatic, just feeling that stuck sensation. So trauma doesn't have to be this life-threatening car accident or cancer or a death of someone. It can just be, I'm stuck right now, and I've been stuck for months on end or stuck for years, and I'm sick to death of being stuck.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. So one last word of advice. Not that we haven't had heaps already. And
I find myself coming back to the catch cry, you can choose to change and bloom from within.
Yep. Beautiful.
You can choose. You can reframe anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree.
Yep.
Love it.
Life is just jam-packed full of experiences. How you choose to look at them, it's actually on you.
Certainly is.
Yeah. Oh, got the goosebumps.
Well, thank you very much, Karen. I will stop
Thank you so much for having me.
And again, we might, I'll tag you into any of the posts anyway. So if anybody's wanting to, to continue to watch Karen's journey, because you do share it also quite openly and candidly, and that's what I also love about you, and in a most humorous way. So yeah, I'll tag all your socials into.
Just find me searching Change Chick.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today, Erin.
No worries. Thank you.